Good morning. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to get started on meal planning for week 3 during the Pantry Challenge. We are actually out of a few baked goods that we'll be needing this week, like crackers and tortillas. So we'll actually get into some baking today, which I'm excited for. I'm going to be trying Mary's Nest's recipe for crackers for the first time. So I've never made crackers before, so it should be a pretty exciting day. But first, we're going to get started with a breakfast casserole. Also, anything that I try today that I have a recipe for, I will link it in the description.
So at the time I'm recording this voiceover, it's Friday and we've actually had all these meals already. And I have to say, although that breakfast casserole was delicious, probably the best breakfast casserole I've ever made, I think the cream cheese is to thank for that. We're getting kind of burnt out on breakfast casserole and oatmeal bakes. A few weeks prior to starting the pantry challenge, I was on an oatmeal bake kick as well. And that's unfortunate that we're burnt out because I have a whole cupboard full of oatmeal still that I bought thinking we would eat. And it turns out we don't really like oatmeal all that much. The oatmeal bake was really the only way I could think of to get us to eat it a lot in a small amount of time. So I'm trying to think of alternatives to use it up. I'm thinking maybe oatmeal cookies or oatmeal muffins. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments because I'd really like to have it used up before the pantry challenge is over.
I'm going to put this in a 350-degree oven on the top rack until it looks done in the middle. While this is cooking, we're going to move on to lunch. And I'm going to get started on some tuna salad. This celery that I'm chopping here was actually from New Year's Day. I had vacuum sealed it in a mason jar and it still snapped when I bent it. So I think that's the only way I'm going to store my vegetables from now on is vacuum sealed because it was still so fresh. I also pre-chopped and vacuum sealed some of the lettuce that I have, hoping that it would make it a little easier for me to make salads. And then I got to thinking and I was like, well, why don't I just pre-assemble the salads and vacuum seal them with all the toppings on them? And then we can have a ready to go salad whenever we want. Just grab it out of the fridge. And so I tried that this week and I have to say it went great. I loved doing it this way. The only issue that I think I'll have to fix in the future is that I did notice some condensation building up on the sides of the jars. And I feel like that could be an issue because any moisture that you have inside that jar is going to help the lettuce to break down faster. So I think maybe next time I will put a paper towel in the jar on the top of the lettuce to try to keep the moisture to a minimum and make it last even longer. There were a few prepackaged things I wanted to get rid of this week. So for sides, we had pretzels, chips, and some canned peaches. I also had a packet of Bumblebee spicy Thai tuna for one of my lunches, and my husband had some more gumbo and cornbread. Oh, and we finished up the last of those sriracha ramens. For one of my husband's lunches, he wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So here I'm just putting that together with some homemade apple jelly, which I am very proud of. It was the first time I ever made any jelly, and it turned out fairly well for my first time. And it wasn't even something I was expecting to make. I saw a bunch of scraps from when we did a preserving day and looked up what I could do with it, and you can make jelly with it. And now that's something I don't have to buy from the store, and I don't think I could ever go back to store-bought grape jelly again. And it's situations like that that really inspire me to keep on trying new things because they kind of all lean into themselves. If I would have never tried making my own apple pie filling, I would have never had apple scraps, I would have never learned how to make my own jelly. And now you just keep picking up more and more things as you go along and it becomes easier and easier. I probably don't need to label this, but I want to try something out. Actually, in the description where I posted one of the recipes that I'm trying this time, the blog post attached to it had a great idea to use chalk markers to label your Tupperwares and your bags and stuff. And once it dries, it doesn't smudge off like an expo marker would. But when you want to go wash it, it washes right off with soap and water like a permanent marker would, and I really want to give that a try because I've been trying to figure out what I can mark all of my freezer stuff with that is easily washable but not easily rubbable away. So if this works, I'm going to be so excited. The blog post did say to let this dry before you put it in your freezer or your fridge. So we're just going to set it aside and let this completely dry. So I do want some crackers to go with my lunch for the little packet of tuna that I have that I'm eating. So I am going to make those along with some tortillas and a pie crust for a pot pie that we're having for dinner. But I'm going to save that all for the end so that when I make a big floury mess, I make one big floury mess and not three separate floury messes. So the last thing that we have to cross off of our list for lunch today is to fry up some pre-marinated tofu that I thawed in the fridge overnight. It is tofu stir fry. Same thing that I have. I can't remember if it was in week 1 or week 2, but we're having it again. And I had the hardest time trying to find the recipe for this tofu stir fry because I loved it so much. It was the best tofu stir fry I have ever had, the best version of it. So I looked and looked and looked online to see, like through my browsing history, to see if I wrote it down in any of my notes anywhere, and I could not find it anywhere. It made me so upset. While our tofu cooks over here, I'm going to go ahead and get started on a different tofu marinade. I also have some chicken that I thawed and diced up over here as well, but we're going to do another chicken marinade. I noticed a pattern. We're having a lot of marinades lately, and they're just really quick and easy, and in my opinion, to do. So it makes my life easier, and we love marinades. I mean, we love marinated chicken, marinated tofu. We have not tired of them yet. I'll be honest, I don't do marinades a whole lot. Usually that's a summer thing for us because we'll take it out and grill it. But I don't know what got in my head the past 2 or 3 weeks where I'm just wanting to marinate everything. It's quick, it's easy, it's delicious. So far, we're not tired of it yet. But whether or not we're tired of it, that's going to have to change next week because after this meal, I am pretty much out of meat. I have a few pieces of chicken left, and I do have a whole turkey and a whole ham in the freezer that I could cook up, but we're only going to want to eat turkey and ham for so many nights in a row before we get tired of it. So I might have to get creative with a few things next week, and we'll see how long we can make it before we call it quits. So that is one thing that I've learned from this is that I can't really go 4 or 5 weeks without going to the store for meat. And that has really opened my eyes because I always thought I kept a decent amount of meat on hand. We've never really run out. I always have some, but it would be nice to have a lot more than that on hand so we don't have to run out. I mean, nobody likes grocery shopping anyway, so if I can have it in my freezer ready to use whenever I need it, and as long as I am cycling it through it like I am now, then I think it would be a good idea to have quite a bit more meat stored away in our freezer. So the recipe for this tofu that I'm about to make is technically not a marinade, but I turned it into a marinade by adding some broth into the ingredients that were listed. And this has in it some ginger, some soy sauce, garlic, and gochujang, which is a Korean chili paste. Do you remember how earlier I said I couldn't remember the recipe that I used for my stir fry the other day? Well, I took a little bit of taste of it as it was cooking, and it must have done something to my memory because I just remembered what my stir fry tofu is. I couldn't find the recipe that I used because I didn't use a recipe. I remember now. I was playing around with some soy sauce and some sweet soy glaze and I think some broth or something, and I was playing around with it and some white wine vinegar or something like that. I was mixing it up. I thought it would taste good, and I threw it together. Oh no. Now I have to figure out what I mixed together that night. Well, this will be fun. After getting our marinated chicken all taken care of for dinner, I got started on some scalloped potatoes for a side, and that is the last of the prepackaged scalloped potatoes that I had in the pantry. The last two things that I needed to get checked off my list before we could start baking was some ziti and some pork taco meat. For the ziti, I used some pre-made sauce that we made a couple weeks ago for our pizza. And we actually ran out of mozzarella cheese last week, so we are going to use Parmesan instead. Okay, we are done with everything except for our baking, so it's about that time for me to get the board and write all of our meals down for the week. And then after we're done with that, we will get started on making the tortillas, the crackers, and a pie crust. So this is our list for this week. We got our tuna salad, pretzels and fruit. We're having some of the pot pie for lunch that I'm making for dinner Monday. We've got some more tofu and ramen, and I'm gonna have tofu and broccoli again. We've got our salads and my husband's peanut butter and jelly. For dinner, we are gonna have those pork tacos, marinated chicken and scalloped potatoes, baked ziti, and some more tofu stir fry and rice. And this is actually the last of our tofu. We are out of tofu after this meal. The pot pie filling I already have pre-made. I made this a while ago. Ooh, yeah, I made this in July. So I made this last July. So we're gonna go ahead and thaw this and eat it. I'm going to put it in the fridge now, and then we will cook it up Monday night. I dug around in the freezer to make sure that I didn't have any already made pie crust to use up, and I did find one that I made back in November when I was making Thanksgiving pies. So I am gonna go ahead and lay this out to thaw, and what I'll do is roll it out and put it in a pie pan and stick it in the fridge. That way, Monday when we go to have the pie, all I or my husband has to do is dump the pie filling in and put it in the oven to cook. So now all we have to make are tortillas and some crackers. I don't know about you guys, but baking is something that I find very therapeutic. I love kneading out doughs, and that's a large reason why I like to make a lot of my bread stuff from scratch. I enjoy being able to let my mind wander while I work on a task that's going to bring us a delicious food. And I'm really glad that I left this for the end of the day. I was a little bit concerned at first that I would be too burnt out by the end of the day to carry out these two things. And I'll be honest, I was really tired. But because I enjoy doing these things so much, I pushed through it and I was able to get everything done, especially the crackers. I'm so excited about the crackers, which is something that I never thought I would be excited about, but here we are. Alrighty. Our crackers are done and ready to cool, and then I get to try one. Those do look so good. Whew. Well, that is it for tonight and for week 3 of the Pantry Challenge. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next week for week 4 of the Pantry Challenge. Thanks. Bye.